Welcome to United Network News, the official news channel for CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. I'm Sunny Galt. At UNN, you get the real news. Through our field messengers, we show you the truth about what's really taking place in our communities. We also bring you stories to help you remember who you are and why you're here, as well as regional stories that impact the people. And our World Situation Report reveals what's happening throughout the multiverse. We are here to restore Earth. In the U.S., it is Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. These crocheted bears spread love and hope to children in Africa affected by HIV and AIDS. We'll show you how the bear-making magic happens. The Danube Delta is an incredible ecosystem, and it was also a hot spot for pirates. Learn how this unique landscape helped them hide their treasures. Does it really take a village to raise a child? We'll discuss the expectations we put on parents today and how it may be changing. Kidnappings are on the rise in Central Africa, causing fear and impacting the local economy. And now vigilantes are stepping up. And in the UK, major airports are increasing fees for dropping off passengers near the terminal.
This is Calen Gipp, messenger for United Network News. Here's a look at today's field messenger reports from all around the world. Volunteers across the US knit or crochet bears for children in Africa affected by HIV and AIDS, offering a symbol of love and care. UNN field messenger Ruth guides us through the bear-making process.
Hello, this is Ruth, field messenger for UNN. These are some cuddly bears that I have knitted for the non-profit Mother Bear Project. The bears are donated to children in Africa. People knit or crochet the bears as a gift of unconditional love to the children, showing them that someone cares. The Mother Bear organization has sent at least 183,000 bears to Africa in 26 countries in the 18 years. I have been knitting mother bears for 10 years in my free time, as it is relaxing, creative, and worthwhile. First, I knit the whole bear as a long piece. Then I fold it and sew the head. Then I knit the arms. The body is sewn together, leaving an opening for stuffing. When all the stuffing is inside, I sew around the neck and make a small scarf to cover the sewing. Then on the head, I sew ears, eyes, nose, and mouth to make a face. Every bear gets a label with the name of the donor. The finished bears have a heart sewn on before they are mailed to African nations. There are 4 different patterns to knit or crochet. The pattern costs $5 from motherbearproject.org. The smiles and joy on the children's faces when they receive a bear that completely belongs to them are heartwarming. This is Ruth signing off as field messenger.
The Danube Delta, with its dynamic landscape and remote location, served as a strategic place for pirates to hide their treasures. UNN field messenger Monica shares the rich history of this region.
Hello, Monica here, field messenger for United Network News, reporting from Sulina in Romania. You may be wondering what the pirates were doing in the delta. With its thick reeds, marshes and water that rises and falls with the seasons, making new land appear and disappear, the Danube Delta was the perfect hiding place for pirate treasure. Legends say that 1,000 years ago there was an underwater road used by pirates to hide their treasures. It connected the Black Sea coast with the wildest parts of the Danube Delta. Sulina, a port on the Danube and the Black Sea, not directly connected to the Romanian road network due to its location between waters, used to be a pirate nest. Members of many professions representing 21 nationalities all live together in Sulina and are buried together in the town cemetery. The pirate Contagoras was also buried there. Contagoras was executed for piracy at the age of 33. It was not easy for the authorities to find him because no one thought that a rich man who went to high society ballrooms was a pirate. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.
We want you to become a UNN field messenger. These are everyday people just like you who want to make a difference in their community. You don't need any special training or equipment. Just use the camera on your mobile phone and show us what's happening in your area. You send us your videos and our production team will create the report for you. Our website is now up and running at unitednetwork.earth. You can submit your Field Messenger reports directly through the Field Messenger tab at the top of the page. You can also email your reports to our email address at fieldmessenger@unitednetwork.earth.
Hey, I'm Kirsten from Switzerland.
This is Wayne from Tucson.
Hi, my name is Desmond from Ghana.
I am Claudia from Dawsonville, Georgia.
I'm Mikey from Pretoria, South Africa.
Hi, I'm Steve McGrath, Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada.
People from all around the world are coming together.
Happy day, beautiful world. We are here in a rather small urban garden, and this video is just to show you the joys that we've had in this garden with electric gardening.
When news happens in their area, they show us what's really going on.
We have people in the streets protesting for and against.
At United Network News, our field messengers are changing the face of news.
This is Field Messenger Helen reporting with nature, and I'm going to talk to you about the bees again.
Take the next step in restoring our planet. Become a UNN field messenger today.
Hi, I'm Stephanie from South Africa. If it's going to be, it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to me. It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to all of us. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news.
When it comes to raising children, you've probably heard the phrase, it takes a village. This type of child rearing may be preferred, but it's not the standard in Western culture. But that seems to be changing. More and more parents and caregivers are asking for help. Belinda Tung created her online resource, Perfect Child, as a support system for parents to help them deprogram from cultural and societal norms. Today, we're talking about asking other people for help, specifically when it comes to parenting. And of course, Belinda is back with us. Belinda, I feel like this is so much easier said than done. It's like we know this, and I've seen this even in mainstream media. It takes a village, you know. Well, sometimes, though, you know, it's like our society prides itself on handling things individually, being self-sufficient. You know, we've got these $5 words that we, you know, back to the labeling, you know, we like to have these labels, you know, as being a successful parent. And at least in Western society, a lot of times that is doing things on your own. But we're also in a system that makes it impossible to do that and be truly effective unless we're just, you know, pushing kids through a system and, you know, trying to get them all to believe the same thing. It's like a factory, right?
Right.
So what do we do here?
Oh my gosh, it's true. I mean, society is pushing away where everybody is sort of in their own lane, right? Yeah. Neighbors hardly even talk to each other. So you don't grow up in a space where you're familiar with community, but traditionally there's always been the village. and the community, right? And so now you're hearing a lot of it takes a village, because these are the change makers that are coming in and saying, mamas, ask for help.
Yeah.
You know, papas, ask for help. We're not in, for some reason, we're geared not to receive a lot, right? We're all about giving, and especially mothers. I was just in a women's circle where the mothers, it was very vulnerable and raw, and a lot of them were sad and crying because they feel lonely, because they feel like, I have to keep the house clean, but I also have to be here for the baby. And well, the dad gets home from work and he's had such a long day. Like, I want him to be able to relax. No. First of all, there's not enough talking about how deep the mother's work is. We are literally like the baby's lifeline after they come out. So we're like kangaroo mamas.
Yep.
Right? And the father, we all know, we've all had jobs before. We know that 80% of the time that you're at a job, you're doing something else, right? You can surf online. You can talk with your friends. You can kick up your feet. I've actually seen this before in a corporation where the guys will take a magazine in with them to the bathroom.
We're never in the now, which is a whole other topic, right? But we aren't. We're always thinking about the next thing, or what are we doing next, and what's after lunch, but we're never present.
No, and like mothers, we're with the baby the whole time, and so when the husband comes home, like, it would be great if the husband would actually just take the baby and actually make dinner too and clean the house. Because your work wasn't that hard, comparatively speaking. The mother is healing. She's the food source for the baby. She's the energy source for the baby. You know, I've spoken with early childhood educators, right? And they're saying how children, like less than 6 years of age, actually pull the energy from the adult that they're with, right? That we're an energy source for them. So a lot of early childhood educators are depleted by the end of the day. Right?
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So imagine, like, mothers, like, yeah, you need a village. And I love how there's some people out there, doulas, who understand how much mothers need. And they are wanting to create not just like meal trains for moms, but like cleaning trains. Like, if you're a mother and you feel comfortable having a few friends come over with their cleaning supplies, cleaning your house, cleaning your bathroom, cleaning your kitchen, and making food for you.
Oh, that's amazing.
What the village would be amazing for.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I love that you mentioned postpartum doulas. I think that should be a standard.
Yes.
Everybody, once they have a baby, you need a postpartum doula for sure. And a village in addition to that. Maybe she can help you set up your village. Yeah. That's genius.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. And if you can't find a village nearby you, there's always online. Just knowing that there are other people that are in your same space and experiencing the same things really helps.
So I have personal experience with that because I had all of my babies, boom, 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 boom. You know, by the time my twins came out, I had 4 kids, ages 3.5 and younger. Okay. So I was in it. But what I did, and I didn't even consciously know exactly what I was doing, but my background was doing exactly what we're doing now, talking to people, interviewing people. And I ended up creating a business out of it. I ended up creating a series of podcasts that were focused on the same stage of life that I was in at that moment. So kind of like what you're doing with Perfect Child, except it was audio only. I would reach out to these people and I would talk to them. And not only was it an expert that I was talking to, but I would also bring in other parents to discuss it as well. And looking back, I was like, that helped me so much. I mean, set aside a business, which, you know, just keeps your mind active and thinking about other things besides caring for babies. That was great too. But it was about connecting with other moms that were going through the same thing as me. And most of these women I never met in person, but it still allowed me to thrive during a time when so many women, unfortunately, are dealing with depression and things because they're just, you know, it's not that village. They feel closed off. They feel alone. So I'm so glad you brought that up because it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to. I mean, I think it's good to get out of your house, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't mean that, because sometimes that will take a lot out of you too. I remember when my twins were really little and people would be like, oh, go to this play date. I'm like, I have got 4 kids that are under 4 years old and you want me to go to a play date? That doesn't even sound like fun at all.
No.
So there are other alternatives,
Yeah. And there's so many podcasts now.
Yeah.
Right? So many that are just so uplifting. And the Reconnected is, I think, a community on Mighty Networks.
Okay.
Free, and they do like breath work and communities, like really kind of just lift you up and give you resources to help you, tools to help sort of regulate your nervous system and everything. And all of that is so useful.
Yes.
Yeah.
High school students in northern Germany are being introduced to the working world through a new program called No Graduation Without Connection. This initiative pairs students with local companies and organizations for internships lasting from 3 weeks to 9 months, providing hands-on experience and insights into various professions. All 9th and 10th grade students are required to participate with the main goal of creating business connections and important social networks. The program also offers support and essential skill development, including interviewing, resume writing, and job applications. Upon completion, students have options. Some may enter the workforce directly after 10th grade, while others will continue high school for 3 more years and then pursue university studies. No Graduation Without Connection is committed to bridging the gap between education and employment, ensuring students are well prepared for their professional journeys ahead. A new trend is emerging across America where many schools are now hosting inclusive proms. These events ensure that every student, regardless of ability or background, feels valued and included on their special night. Inclusive proms are designed to make everyone feel comfortable, bringing together students from various schools to enjoy music and dancing in a friendly, accepting, happy environment. Planning an inclusive prom involves thoughtful considerations like selecting a wheelchair-friendly location, accessible venues, and diverse activities that all students can participate in. These inclusive proms create a sense of belonging and unity while also boosting school spirit within the community. They help to build a more compassionate society where everyone can shine and be celebrated for who they are. In the heart of the Democratic Republic of Congo, a mobile library called Kitabus is transforming education. Kitabus combines the Swahili words for book and bus to bring reading to students with limited access to libraries. With fewer than 5 public libraries in the city, this initiative is a game changer, offering a rich collection of novels, fables, magazines, and textbooks. Students could read on the bus or in special outdoor setups at their schools. Kitabus visits for 2 hours of uninterrupted reading, turning schoolyards into vibrant literary havens. This pioneering project sets a new standard for educational outreach, ensuring the joy of reading is accessible to all. As the first initiative of its kind in the region, Kitabus is becoming more than just a library on wheels. It's a vehicle for change and educational growth opportunities. We are United Network News. Every day, we release real stories from real people all over the world.
Field Messenger reporting from Gold Coast, Australia,
Denmark,
Canada,
Uganda,
from Atlanta,
in Southern California.
In their own words, people like you share what's really happening in their area. At UNN, you are the news. You are creating a new world with infinite possibilities. You are the restoration plan. Come join us for the real news every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, only on United Network. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news. Increased kidnapping incidents driven by economic interests are affecting communities across Cameroon's northern region, Chad, and the Central African Republic. Abductions have been accompanied by illicit activities like small arms trafficking, cattle rustling, and drug trafficking. Weak state governance and holes in the borders enable terror groups and criminal gangs to thrive, aggravating insecurity and impacting daily life. Traders, civil servants, aid workers, and locals, particularly nomadic ethnic Fulani herders, are common targets. The resulting fear has severely hindered the movement of goods, cattle, and people across the region, leading to economic ripples, rotting harvests, and decreasing food supplies. Local vigilantes are stepping in to protect their communities, but call for more state support. Gambia's parliament has rejected a proposed bill to overturn the ban of female genital mutilation. The Ministry of Information confirmed the ban remains in place, with the government committed to eliminating this harmful practice. The bill had initiated a national debate, dividing opinions in the country. The lawmaker who proposed the reversal cited cultural and religious reasons, but many disagreed. Health experts warn the procedure has severe health risks, including excessive bleeding and psychological problems. The bill had previously reached a second reading, raising concerns amongst rights advocates. However, after extensive public hearings and compelling testimonies from doctors and survivors, parliamentary committees recommending maintaining this ban. Thousands of children in El Salvador have been arrested under a mass anti-gang campaign, suffering severe abuse while in custody. The campaign was launched on March of 2022 and aimed to eradicate gang activity in the country. More than 3,300 minors have been detained in indiscriminate raids, targeting low-income neighborhoods. Many have no links to gang activities and were arrested due to their appearance or socioeconomic status. Reports indicate at least 60 children endured beatings, torture, and insufficient access to food, healthcare, or family contact. Some were coerced into false confessions and left vulnerable to adult detainees. Sentences for the children, often given with dubious evidence and without due process, can last up to 12 years. While the campaign significantly reduced the homicide rate, the impact on children has been profound, with long-term consequences. More than 100 students were injured in Bangladesh on Monday during clashes between anti-quota protesters and supporters of the government. Thousands of students and government supporters fought with rocks, sticks, and iron rods at various universities. The unrest led to injuries on multiple campuses and calls for continued rallies nationwide. The protests began after a court decision to restore 30% job quotas for descendants of freedom fighters. Despite a temporary suspension of the order, demonstrations have intensified, especially following the Prime Minister's refusal to meet the students' demands. Following her comments likening opponents of the quotas to wartime traitors, many students protested late into the night. Thousands of lawyers in India's capital protested on Monday against recent criminal legislation changes by boycotting court hearings. The new laws, effective since July 1st, expand police powers for pre-trial detention and demand judges issue rulings within 45 days post-trial. The government claims these changes modernize the system and focus on victims by including severe punishments such as the death penalty for gang rape of minors. Critics argue they overly empower police and strain the already burdened justice system. Protesting lawyers, opposition parties, and activists call for a pause on these implementations to prevent confusion and overwork. During the strike, many cases were delayed as lawyers sought adjournments. Despite the protests, the Supreme Court and High Court continued their normal operations. Thailand has extended its visa-free entry plan to 93 countries and territories to boost tourism recovery. Visitors can now stay for up to 2 months, a significant increase from the previous policy. Recent data shows an increase in foreign tourist arrivals, but the figures still fall short compared to pre-pandemic levels. Thailand also introduced a 5-year visa for remote workers and extended hoteliers' fee waivers. Visiting students can stay for a year post-graduation to find a job or to travel. Despite these measures, some worry the country's infrastructure is unprepared for increased tourists, risking disappointing experiences and potential air traffic bottlenecks. Safety concerns have also been raised due to rumors of tourists being kidnapped and trafficked across borders. Thailand also plans to roll out a household handout scheme funded by the budgets of the next 2 years. This initiative, approved by a government committee, aims to distribute a financial boost to millions of citizens, encouraging local spending within a set time frame. While the government's goal is to stimulate the economy, they have faced challenges in securing the necessary funds. The policy, introduced as a key proposal in the latest election, has attracted criticism from economists and former central bank officials who argue it might strain the nation's finances. The detailed plans are expected to be presented to the cabinet soon, with full implementation details to follow. In Australia, conditions at a Queensland watch house are facing criticism for their detrimental impact on detained youth. Reports describe conditions as abusive, with incidents of inadequate care, a sexual assault, and a fire in an overcrowded cell. Leaked notes reveal a massive deterioration in mental health amongst detained individuals, including cases of self-harm. Advocates argue minor offenses are leading to more frequent arrests, trapping youth in a damaging cycle within the justice system. Police claim a reduction in youth crime due to their efforts, but critics argue this hides deeper issues by increasing custody numbers. Critics say the approach risks long-term harm by focusing on punishment over rehabilitation. Germany's primary rail corridor will close for months as part of a significant overhaul to its train network, affecting thousands of passengers and freight services. Years of underinvestment have caused frequent delays, technical mishaps, and international ridicule. The overhaul begins with the 70 kilometers or 43-mile stretch between Frankfurt and Mannheim, a crucial route for both passengers and freight. The 5-month closure will force passengers to use alternative routes, replace bus services or cars, while freight traffic will need different rail routes or lorries. The project involves extensive track replacements, station modernizations, and the installment of noise barriers. Despite plans to transform the railway network by 2030, there are concerns about funding, feasibility, and the potential long-term impact on commuters and businesses. Airports in the UK are facing criticism for raising charges for drivers dropping off passengers. Recent research shows more than a third of major airports have increased fees for brief drop-offs. These charges apply to those wanting to lead passengers as close as possible to the terminal. Only a handful of airports still offer free drop-offs. When passengers use taxis or private hire vehicles, these fees are usually added to the fare. Some airports claim the fees are intended to reduce driving and encourage the use of more sustainable transport. However, this has been challenged since alternatives are often not available, costly, and unreliable. A trade body spokesperson claims drop-off fees help keep airline charges low and support investment in airport facilities and sustainable transport. The U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau fined the Fifth Third Bank $20 million for harmful practices affecting auto loan customers. The bank forced customers to purchase unnecessary car insurance and repossessed vehicles when payments lapsed. More than 1,000 families lost their cars due to these unfair charges. The Bureau discovered employees also opened fake bank accounts without customers' consent to meet sales goals. As a result, 35,000 affected customers will be compensated, and the bank is prohibited from continuing these practices. The bank will pay $15 million for fake accounts and $5 million for duplicate car insurance charges. These actions have left consumers paying more than $12.7 million in worthless fees, while the bank profited. California's efforts to build electric vehicles or EV charging infrastructure are struggling due to local opposition and regulatory delays. 1 million public chargers are needed in the state by the end of 2030. Now, that's almost 10 times more than the number available to drivers as of December. Despite state laws aimed at streamlining and permitting process, many local governments struggle with limited resources, leading to project backlogs and higher costs. Frustrated residents report unreliable public charging options with inconsistent charging speeds and frequent outages. Efforts to upgrade the grid to support new charging infrastructure are underway, but supply chain issues and lengthy approval times add to these delays. State officials stress while the transition to EVs is progressing, it remains a gradual and ongoing process. Also in the U.S., a recent investigation has raised concerns about the quality and reliability of cord blood banking services. Reports indicate several customers discovered their cord blood samples were either too small or contaminated. Private cord blood banks have faced criticism for misleading marketing and inadequate quality control. CBR Bank was cited by the Food and Drug Administration inspectors for failing to maintain appropriate shipping conditions and for deficient contamination testing. These failures have led to multiple cases of stem cells arriving warmer than acceptable and growing bacteria, with some quality control measures allegedly ignored by management. As regulatory scrutiny intensifies, customers are left questioning the future viability and safety of privately banked cord blood. We have an exciting new announcement. We have launched a new global TV service specifically for the UNN community. Thousands of live TV channels, 60,000 movies on demand, over 30 languages, and live sports from around the globe. Between all the separate streaming services and cable for live TV and sports packages, it could cost well over $200 a month. But now with United TV, you can have it all for only $15.99 a month. Go to unitedtv.org and check it out. Get so much more for so much less.
And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. The Trump Organization has already started to build its executive branch, assuming they win this election. Election. Treasury attempts to utilize an old gold lease to support a new currency today. Where did the old gold lease come from, and was it valid? And the cleanup of the attempted reversal of the Golden Age continues. And here is today's current status. All this and more on today's Real News World Situation Report.
Now here's the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian.
Good afternoon, my time today. I guess good evening for some of you, and good morning in other places. I apologize for today's report being a little late and that Sunny is not here today. It's been a very busy few days here and we'll talk about that in just a minute. I wanted to talk a little bit about some real news since there is a lot still going on all over the alternative media about the Trump Organization. Meaning, he's a martyr. There was an alleged shooter again in Milwaukee. I guess they're not getting enough street cred, so to speak, from the first shooting, so they decide to have a shooter. And probably everywhere he goes, there'll be a shooter until they figure out that no matter how many alleged shooters are there will be no more support for this organization than they already currently have. This isn't a right-left thing for me, and I just want to point this out. We already know that we currently have a president that passed away shortly after he was elected in office now. We obviously can see that whoever they have in there, they're pulling the strings behind the scenes in China for this particular president. They are looking for a crash of the United States and a transfer of power over to China, and that is why they make the president of the United States look so bad. This obviously wouldn't happen unless China somehow got a grip or a hold of the world economy to the point where they believe they could be successful in running the entire world and moving the world's power center over to China. So don't get me wrong, I don't even consider that like an issue, but I do have some issues with this Trump Organization. Now, the reason why I do is because the people, the operatives that run the organization behind the scenes, are doing a lot of evil things to humanity. This is not evil as in politics or even Project Warp Speed that he launched during his prior administration when he was alive. This also ties into a lot of human trafficking ties. There is a lot of pedophile rings that are associated with the organization. Not only that, we have the Q team that was built underneath Kushner at one point in time. And the Q team keeps putting out these messages like, we control your dreams. That's the latest one. It's over for you. All of these kind of things. We're all going to die. There's going to be blackouts. The quantum flip is happening and all of this stuff, which the quantum flip that they're talking about is something that could be devastating to the human race. So my problem, and the reason why I keep mentioning these people, stems from this. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about them just real briefly, because I think it's important to really understand, what is happening behind the scenes. Okay, so we've talked a little bit in the last few weeks about Jamie Dimon, however you say his name. Demon works for me. And he is currently with JP Morgan Chase. He also is currently with a group called the Global Headquarters. And the Global Headquarters, as you know, is basically what you would call the head of your military industrial complex. These are the guys that had the global security contract underneath the Order of the Black Sun. Now, he believed that he was in charge of this organization or had taken the reins or was promised this position due to some serious manipulation of derivatives that was happening at JP Morgan Chase. The fact that he was endorsing central bank digital currencies and endorsing digital currencies for the bank, and a lot of other financial manipulation that is being done on behalf of the Order of the Black Sun. Well, in the last 48 hours, they have actually the Trump Organization has tapped Jamie Dimon, who plans on retiring at some point this year, to be the new Treasury Secretary. Now, knowing all of the things that this man is involved in, and, lots of financial, economic assassinations of countries and all kinds of things he's been doing, especially recently, this is the guy that they pick. So let's talk for a second about the guy that was under the Trump Organization as the last secretary, Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin. Now, Steve Mnuchin is known actually behind the scenes to run a pedophile ring on behalf of most of the Washington, D.C. politicians and elite. This is a fact. He definitely has a black book of that. He has a history of that. He also liked to utilize his connections with the Treasury Department in Washington and in New York to launder a lot of money for a lot of politicians and kind of wipe the records clean. So you wouldn't know who's buying how many kids and on a regular basis and whatnot. So, you know, the track record here for the organization as far as what they're involved in is kind of rough, even from the last time. Now, I did a long time ago when I believed that Trump was actually going to do the right thing for the country because he was kind of an outsider in the political circle arena, except for his involvement with campaign funding and that kind of thing. I did send him Mnuchin's file, all of the politicians involved, where he buys the boys and girls from, his involvement with the Clintons and Child Protective Services in the United States, and all of that kind of thing. All those records are there, very easy to see. He would launder a lot of that money through his Treasury expense account, his black card, Treasury black card account, and a number of other places too. Did anybody do anything to this guy, you know, except for where the original one disappeared to? No. Is he still, is the person that is fronting as Mnuchin still running a ring? Yes. So I don't know why they didn't choose to bring him back, because the one that they've got now is just as bad, you know, if not worse. So hiring people from within the Black Sun Central Circle is probably not make him the most popular president in the world, at least not with those of us that are allegedly fighting the deep state. He doesn't fight the deep state. He hires the deep state. Not really sure what that's all about, but you know, I actually, we do. You know, you watching this now and listening to this know that is a fact. After we sent Mnuchin's file to the president, nothing happened. Everything was squashed underneath the rug. He continued on to the end of the administration, so no surprise there. Also, vice president picks, that happened this week. But his former vice president, Mike Pence, also runs a child trafficking ring. They love their children there with the Trump administration, don't they? And I'm sure he's saving babies left and right, like they say on the internet. But his child trafficking ring was in cooperation with AMLO, which is short for Obrador, President Obrador of Mexico, which he still runs to this day, or whatever's playing that part now of that person, which they still run to this day. And they are that financial information can be located at Santander Bank in Mexico. The information is all there. And probably in Santander in Spain as well, and then a few other locations in the world, depending on where they're buying children from today. So that was the former vice president. This current pick, Vance, is a Yale Skull and Bonesman, also an organization and a society that falls under the Order of the Black Sun. So I guess they're just a group of Black Sun people that want to run the world. And meanwhile, their operatives are putting out things like, we're going to control all of your dreams, and we're going to do all of these things to you, and there's going to be a quantum flip. Your life will never be the same. 144,000 people, and you're going home, and all the crazy things that they post. I watch the things that they post because oftentimes that means that there's something going on in the world that could potentially harm all of humanity. So shot, no shot, whatever these people are contemplating on the internet, the only thing I can tell you is what the facts actually are. You know, this is an organization run by the Order of the Black Sun and all of their friends and family network. And meanwhile, this same organization is trying to kill all of humanity. So I can imagine what would happen if this person got back into an office and probably try to initiate some other type of pandemic in another warp speed. But that is some very interesting information in relation to other things that are going on as far as this golden age reversal is. So I'm going to talk about that in just a second. And what the real plan was behind the scenes in launching these Pfizer vaccines and all of the other things that were done under the former Trump administration. Okay, next, let's talk about what else is happening in the regular world today. You and I have spoken way back in 2022 about a woman that was the female representation of Lilith on this planet, and her code name was called May Hua. May Hua has not been with us. That position has remained empty since 2022. But most recently, they tried to appoint someone that they believed is in her bloodline as the new May Hua. My understanding is this person's last name is Rodriguez. A Filipino person, a female, to take that slot. Now, this person truly believes that she has this position, and she's running around the world telling everybody until she wasn't, which means that today, when she tried to assign a gold agreement, she believes she controls all of this gold, and that really was never even the case for May Hua anyway. But she believes she now controls all of this gold, to which she was trying to assign more gold to Treasury Department and of course, global headquarters, because global headquarters and the Order of the Black Sun love May Hua because she was the issuer of all of their clearances to exist. She also assigned to them a security contract to quote unquote protect the gold and her alleged assets at the time, many, many years ago. The former May Hua was probably in her 80s, probably was not aware of some of the other agreements that took place before her tenure. Therefore, she felt like she was doing her job. I guess, these people don't tend to give the next in line a whole lot of information, and that's what's causing a lot of disruption in the world right now. So in a conversation that was had with the Treasury Department the other day, that would be in the U.S. because every country has a treasury, whether it's public or not, with a person from the Treasury Department, recently, they were all headed over to London because there are a number of banks, mostly larger banks like Barclays and a few others, that are going under in London. I mean, they're at critical mass right now. And that's because they're listening to a bunch of people that have no hope of ever performing any function. But yet they keep going on these old contracts and old pretenses because they believe these things are real. So first, I need to break down for you the May Hua situation. The May Hua line was the line of Lilith. Now, the gold ownership in the past, before we took it over on our side, the old gold ownership was with Anti-Source. And then there was a lease that was given for a short-term renewable every 99 years to whoever held the position of the May Hua. In other words, ownership never transferred hands, and the May Hua organization, also known sometimes as the Mayflower organization, never owned the gold, which is why with all the treasuries of the world and the other agreements, lease agreements that are out there, also with the country of Denmark, or the Queen of Denmark, I should say, there is a difference. The other agreement, or lease agreement that they had, is with the old USSR, because it was part of the 100-year plan to basically burn the Russian Empire and install communism everywhere. And that agreement, they believe, is still intact, which it's not. The Federal Reserve also had agreement, and the Treasury had an agreement. So there were 4 parties that had an outstanding lease agreement for a lease of gold on top of the Meiwa lease. Now, that 99-year lease expired even before her death. And they thought, I guess this is another Black Sun scam, because that would have been part of the Black Sun organization. They thought by appointing this new person out there that they could then utilize that gold. Now, they thought that the reason why they couldn't utilize the gold wasn't because their secondary contracts had expired. They felt that the reason why they couldn't use the gold was actually because there was no current person to authorize the usage under the lease agreement known as Meiwa. However, that is not the case, actually, because the Meiwa agreement was never actually renewed as a lease, a master lease to all the other subsequent leases. Therefore, when her lease agreement expired, even I think it was a year prior to her death, then all the other lease agreements expired as well. So you can create a person to sit in that chair, but without the ultimate covenant, that person will have no authority. Now, the next reason why that was a flawed model of theirs is because the ownership of the gold of Earth is not anti-source anymore. It's actually source. And with myself as the guardian and myself as the trustee of the gold on that behalf. So the position of Meiwa on the dark side of things is no longer actually applicable in this case. Therefore, the Treasury's transactions they're trying to do I think it's in London right now, which was today, and then a few other things they tried to do over the last few days, but mainly it was in London today, completely failed. Not only that, any remnants that existed in the Omega system of Meiwa went away. Any remnants of anything that of anti-source that tried to reinstall themselves due to this other program went away, and everything on that front has been pretty well cleaned up, and everything went back to the way that it was, meaning the gold is now assigned to the repository. You as humanity are the beneficiaries of that gold and all the energy and everything else, including currency that it creates. The Treasury can actually see a lot more now on all of their screens, along with the governments, of the new currency and a new algorithm and a new way of creating currency. But that doesn't stop global headquarters and the military-industrial complex from doing what they do best, chase fantasies. Now, as part of this reversal that was set up by non-humans, that has been happening for the last couple of days. One of the things that has happened is that they're starting to see things flicker over to the side in the Omega system. Things that have flickered are a few $1 trillion, for example, for this gold security contract. That was one thing they saw last night. They believed that they had access to a global server to go ahead and work on getting this money into the system. I have people calling me, asking me if I want to transfer money into a global server, and I do not want to transfer money into a global server that is owned by global headquarters, because what will happen there is they feel that they could steal allocation numbers from me and then make that money good and put it into the financial system and give us as humans zero. Now, that is not the case, my friends. Number one, all my allocation numbers are highly encrypted, and there's no way you're ever going to break them. Nobody else has been able to break them, and the same people that think they're going to break them have been trying to do so for approximately 4 years now. And it hasn't worked to date. So I don't know why they think today would be the day where you could screen scrape my allocation numbers, but no. Next, the fake money that they're seeing pop up on screens and the minimal access to whatever glimmer tries to show back up of Omega system, Omega Quantum AI system, is money zero. In other words, not only does it have no allocation, it's still money. It's still M0. So that is not even a compatible monetary system with the new system anymore. Because remember, this program that was set up to revitalize the Dark Ages, or not let us out of the Dark Ages, I guess, was done so long ago that most of the beings involved, even with current consciousness, have not been successful in altering their systems and their time-released protocols to the current way things are. So in that sense, we have been at least a couple of steps ahead, and we haven't lost what we had. What we did have a problem with is we had some what you call a website mask. We've had some masking issues. We've had some overlay issues. We've had a few things like that where they could see our currency systems and then they couldn't see our currency systems. And this is nothing to do with the humans. This has to do with things that were set up a long time ago. So most of that has been fixed now, and we're back on track, integrating the light system and fixing anything that happened to show up over the last few days. And I got to tell you, as far as things that showed up in the last few days, there's a few things that some of them I kind of hesitate to tell you, but now that things are a lot clearer and a lot cleaner, my understanding of what's going on and what began to happen to some degree the end of last week, but it really ramped up on Sunday. And then by Monday, I was still trying to sort out what the heck is happening when we talked on Monday. Okay. So when we talked on Monday, we talked about approximately 25% or hundreds of millions of people being infected. Now, being infected means that they had to some degree a marker that would allow for them to have a demon walk-in, for lack of a better term. Something from the lower astral that could have the ability to inhabit their body. Now, you would think, well, there has to be some consent for this. And in the current modern day, that is true. But way back when these protocols were put in place, it wasn't. Humanity was spoken for by the group we call the parents. And the parents had full authorization to take care of their quote-unquote children, which was all of humanity, and authorize that walk-in at the time the programs were developed decades ago. These are decades-old protocols that were put in place. However, with the now recent covenants returning to a sovereign being, that didn't quite work out the way that they wanted it to work out. Now, there would have been a lot of innocent people that were hurt if that had actually been successful. But all along the way, we have to trust in source. And there's something that came up that proves that point. As frustrated as I am with delays, sometimes delays have saved a lot of people's lives. And underneath this protocol, we would have been in trouble. Now, of course, you have a lot of the deep state running around with something in there. They still had something in there. I didn't even know that some of them still had something in there, because these things that are in there are, I call them demonlets. They're a piece of someone else's thing that inhabited their body with their full consent, by the way. Now, the reason why this is... Okay, with these folks, something that they've been doing for a long time, I'm trying to explain this in the best way I can, is this thing that is inside them inhabits their body during the day, in which it talks to them, it gives them ideas, it gives them thoughts, and obviously, based on what we see happening with the deep state all throughout the world, they're obviously not positive thoughts. But the less connection that they have to computer systems that are functioning, such as Omega, and the less connection they have to the lower astral, the demons obviously are getting not so smart. And they're going off of old knowledge that they have, and they're also going off a little bit of spying that they do. So during the day, they're having these conversations with these folks internally. Next, and sometimes if they've been infected long enough, you're not even having a conversation with the person you think you're having a conversation with. The other thing they do is they have the ability at night to leave their body. And when they leave their body, they come out in the shadows. So you'll see them out of the corner of your eye, moving around, that kind of thing. And then they go back in during the day. These also have, you know, what we would call more skills than humans. They have telepathic powers. This is where a lot of espionage takes place. A lot of, information for their corporations takes place, because these things can go all over the world, and no one, unless you're awake and aware, can actually see them. You know, some people think they see a shadow out of the corner of their eye. Oh, it's just probably the wind or whatever it is. But the rest of us know really what's going on. Now, that was for the deep state. The next group of people that were on the list to actually do a swap with, because their DNA could hold something very positive, such as full source energy, or something really negative, which is full anti-source energy, or in this case, that spawn, what I call demons, or the Melchizedeks. They were also on the list to be inhabited. They wanted to take over this line because they knew that if we ever left any of the dark ages and moved to a neutral age or moved to a light age, that the Melchizedeks would have a lot of power, and therefore they wanted all the power on earth. So they were sending them over to after that bloodline, or our bloodline, for quite a while. This caused an enormous amount of pain to most of these people. It caused a lot of illness in a lot of these people. Some of the people I know, felt like they were having a heart attack or going to die. For one, another one couldn't breathe, and it would happen mainly after sunset when these things were on the prowl. So they were going after that bloodline like crazy. So if you're one of these people and you experienced these symptoms over the weekend and really thought that you were going to die, and you could feel awful pain in your solar plexus like you were having a baby, if you're a female, you know what that feels like, or maybe having a kidney stone if you're a male and know what that feels like. It's horrible, horrible pain. And it's very difficult because there were not enough bodies assigned to what was coming in to accommodate the amount that was to accommodate the amount of demons. Okay, so this was the second part of the program. Obviously, the deep state was a given. You know, they'd get their own respective demons, but now it wouldn't just be over the age of 40. It would be for their entire bloodlines down to small children. So that was the plan all along. The next ones in line were obviously the strongest as far as being able to retain that much energy. And so the largest of demons were coming after this whole line. That's why my Sunday night was horrible. And I've been doing triage on others that I know, and I'll just leave it at that, of the same line, because they thought they were going to die. And this has been going on every single night where they are respectively in the world. Now, next, we have another group of people here that are, say, from higher dimensions, that have higher natural energy within their person. And those persons also were affected because there is not enough bodies to go around to inhabit. So they started going after some of those people. You know who you are. You feel like you're not from here. So a lot of you might have also felt stomach aches and a lot of pains, because what it does first is it burrows a giant hole in your solar plexus, that would allow it to pass from the astral plane into the third density. And it's terrible. You would know it for sure. So this was the third target group. Those that have been identified as being their soul actually being from a higher density that could probably retain a higher level demon. Maybe not the ultimate demon of Lucifer, but maybe someone to a lesser degree. The next targeted group, and this was the original targeted group of these people, because now that I saw the registry and the program, now I understand a little bit more of what's happening, was the vaccinated. So mRNA stands for Marduk Radio Network Access. And some of that luciferase ingredient and stuff like that was in there, but not all the vaccines, only certain ones. The luciferase, or I can't remember exactly how it's pronounced, so forgive me, but I'm sure you probably remember when you were doing research on them, was actually designed to not initially, well, it wasn't fully designed that way, and I'll explain why it didn't work, but it was actually supposed to allow for, at the right time, when the influx of demons were running around Earth like crazy and coming in through these portals in order to usher in the Dark Ages once again, like happened 250,000 years ago, then it was supposed to, at that time, allow for a DNA modification of the body to allow for a demon to inhabit that body. Now, they accounted for the fact that a large portion of the population, hundreds of millions, if not a billion people, were going to actually get this vaccine. They were unsuccessful in that program, number one. Number two, the tall whites, the geneticists of the planet that used to work as slaves for Marduk, figured out what they were trying to do before they gave the technology over to the pharmaceutical companies in order to produce the vaccine. It didn't work. Yes, it made a lot of people sick. Yes, I understand about spike proteins. I understand a lot of things, but it could have been detrimental to the entire planet, if not the entire universe, if they had actually been infected. So they gave them flawed information, and therefore those humans are still walking around. Now, in order for a vaccinated person to actually even come close to the program, they had to manage to get you to take at least 2 to 3 shots. The only companies that were producing the alleged enhanced vaccine that had the capability of doing this was Pfizer and AstraZeneca to some degree. However, it was completely and totally unsuccessful. But what it did do, unfortunately, is it started, these beings could not go and inhabit these people's bodies for, number one, the parents don't speak for us anymore. The parents aren't even around anymore. And you have your own sovereignty, at least on a covenant level. And I know it might not feel like it in your daily life sometimes, but on a covenant level, you have this sovereignty. So it still couldn't, even if you had 2 to 3 vaccines, even if you had gotten the boosters, even if you had 100 boosters, it still isn't going to make a difference because it still needs your permission. So another flaw in a protocol that was set up way ahead of time. Next, the protocol was actually set up to return us to the Dark Ages, but what it didn't account for is all of the Golden Age programming we have had. So it didn't actually fully understand the changes in a golden age versus a light age. So in a light age, we still would have had darkness. We wouldn't have had source direct current. We didn't have a lot of that stuff. So all of those changes that have been taking place over the last couple of years also stopped this from happening. However, it didn't stop these demon things from flying around the planet all day and all night looking for a proper host, which is why everybody was so tortured for the last several days. Now, as of today, at least as of the time of this recording today, there is less than 0.02% of the population still infected with this issue. All of the biochips have been removed. All of the biomarkers have been removed, if there were any. And then also anything that they had implanted into the Melchizedek line and the others of the light as well have also been removed. So right now, because they don't have a human host, they're getting weaker and weaker. But in addition to that, we developed a rotating sweep program that would basically send them all back to source on an automated basis, utilizing quantum tunnels and a few other things we have running constantly on this planet right now, because until we could make sure that we did get all the sources, which I believe we finally have as of this afternoon, we have no more leaking in, and there were a few more we found yesterday, unfortunately, but most of them have gone. As of this afternoon, most of the major attacks on the human bloodlines they're going for, whether to use them as a feeding source of energy or to try to inhabit their body, have pretty much kind of slowed down. A lot of these people are exhausted. They haven't slept in 4 days. A lot of these people still have bruises because it feels like you've been through a fight and someone had been gut punching you for 4 days straight. So a lot of these people are starting to feel better now. They're starting to be able to eat again and recover, so that's a good sign. Agent M is doing well. If anybody is wondering out there, he's recovering. And that really just didn't even start until this afternoon. So that's part of the reason why the news was late. I wanted to make sure we didn't leave any stone unturned, because when sundown comes, we're all going to be in trouble again. So I kind of went from the east over to the west so that I could follow the sun before sundown hit in each respective time zone. Now, the things that are up in the deep state, even at 0.02% of the population of Earth, is getting weaker. They're not getting the information that they were getting before. There's no collective consciousness anymore. And the attempts that they're making on doing some of this stuff was based on things that were supposed to kick in computer systems. They really truly believed that they would have full-on power within the next few days, at the latest by this Saturday, for two reasons. Number one, we have a full moon coming up on the 21st. You know, they love their full moons, and they feel like there's a program that happens every full moon, which hasn't happened in a long time. But with the advent of this program starting to work, they felt that that is a possibility. It's also stated on the Q clock. Number two, the other reason why Saturday would have been an important day is because it marks the end of the solstice period. The solstice period ends 30 days after the solstice, which this year was a little early on the 20th of June. So they're hoping by the end of this period that they definitely would have returned to at least a dark timeline, if not an entire dark age. That is definitely not going to be the case. We, and there are many people that are out there working to make sure that this never actually happens. It has pointed out a few things that some programs that needed to expire. There's been a lot of work on our part of it to make sure that we are still moving forward, as well as cleaning up at the same time. It's very time consuming, and there's a lot of effort that goes into doing that, but we don't want to go completely backwards. Our energy on this planet dropped significantly on Sunday night. We were back to 50% of direct current. That's not what we wanted, but it's actually in some ways what we needed, because if we had 100% source direct current at the time of the invasion, let's call it the invasion, at the time of the invasion, we all would have been prime candidates to host one of these things. And imagine how many people out there have no idea what we're talking about right now. A lot of you would be aware that this was going to happen, and you would have probably adamantly said no and not consented. But there's a lot of people out there that didn't know that. And if we were all prime candidates, everything that we have worked so hard for would be lost. So in this way, you know, sometimes I don't always understand sources delay with things. I don't understand why things like this are allowed to happen. But honestly, this was a blessing for humanity that we weren't at full 100% at that time. And they dropped the energy down so low, and we were not able to bring it back up until probably the last 24, 48 hours. Because if we had that full energy in every single human, we would have been in serious trouble. So, and I really didn't even understand that until last night, because we've been working so hard on everything. But I had this epiphany, and I'm like, oh my God, if that worked out, we would have all been hosts, not just the vaccinated ones, not this, you know, just whatever. We would have been in serious trouble. The reason why they would like to start a second pandemic is because if they can get more vaccines in people, it doesn't matter what it's for. It didn't matter if it was an mRNA for a cure for toenail fungus. They just needed enough people to buy it. So then these people would too become hosts as well for what was incoming. Now, did the deep state fully understand this? You know, I have no idea. Did the demon talk in their head and say, hey, all my buddies are here, we're going to go have a beer? I don't know. But one thing I know for sure is that it's going in the other direction now, and they are aware of that. They are aware that the things that they were expecting to happen on day 1, day 2, day 3 did not happen, and their transactions are not being successful. I certainly am not going to help them out with actual currency in any way, shape, or form. I know that they would never help me out, even if I gave them allocation numbers with currency. So, yeah, absolutely not. So until then, we're going to continue to clean. That's our plan for the next couple of days, just to make sure everything is at 100% in the opposite direction. We will make sure that no matter how many Maywas that they appoint, that nothing will happen in their favor as far as Treasury or anybody else for that matter. They now should have a copy of the expired agreements because we sent them out to the archivist today. So that they actually have, they were in the system as expired, but now they actually have a copy. So we sent those out just in case anybody is confused once again. And more dead people running against dead people for president, and appointing other people that, you know, human traffic and, you know, all of these things. You know, we already have a dead pedophile in the office right now. And why not have another dead pedophile in the office? You know, I wish people would start to look at alternative candidates. I'm not saying they're the best, and I'm not saying they're the worst, but at least would have some representation that is breathing, so that would be good, and that maybe can try to work from outside the system to make something happen for the U.S. And the U.S. is also the power center for the world, and we've got big problems everywhere right now, financially speaking. You know, everything is going into the toilet. They've been promising everybody to just hold on to this weekend when they're going to have full financial control. That's never going to happen by this weekend or any other day ending in Y. So as for us, we are still standing. We are standing strong. Most of us have fully recovered, and we are back at it and going full bore. So that is about where we're at for Wednesday the 17th. Hopefully I'll have some more really good news by Friday. I'm hoping so. So at this moment, I guess that is the end of the World Situation Report for today. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and we will see you on Friday. Have a great night, everyone.
Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good. Connect with us through our online channels. Our social media team creates clips from each newscast you can easily share with people you care about. That's also where you'll find our UNN Meme of the Day, a great way to encourage critical thinking. Links to all our social media sites are available at the bottom of our website at unitednetwork.earth. Let's change the face of news together.
And that wraps up today's news update. Please share UNN with your friends and family. We need everyone to come together and help restore our planet. When news happens in your area, record and share with us so together we can share it with the world. Remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm Sunny Galt. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the real news.